and absence of the good governance in Iran. Please, you have the floor. Sorry.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Alison Afshari, and I have the honour to talk to you today about climate change and the absence of good governance in Iran, which pertains to the escalating risks in the Azerbaijani provinces. The Iranian authorities have persistently failed to implement the UN recommendations on sustainable development goals. Consequently, the population in Iran, including the nation of Azerbaijan and Azerbaijani provinces, as well as other minority nations, is exposed to a harsh imminent future. Hardships in the whole country is evident, but that of the minority nations is doubled or tripled. The complete desiccation of Lake Urmia in recent years exemplifies this situation and is that on which we will focus today. There are various pertinent aspects of the Iranian discourse surrounding Lake Urmia. Firstly, the desiccation of Lake Urmia has been attributed to climate change. This is now being challenged even by scientific research. The effect of this narrative has been to conceal the true seat of responsibility for the near total loss of the lake. Now, corrective measures recommended by the United Nations Development Programme for mitigating the impacts of climate change on Lake Urmia, they do exist. But despite an insistence on climate change being the driving force behind the lake's demise, the Iranian authorities are consistent in not implementing the action plan. There is no policy initiative on rectifying resilience, no policy on reducing disaster risks, no integration policies with the rest of the legal system to build capacity for promoting climate issues among people and the planning system. And further, there is no documentation of risk exposures to the Azerbaijani at-risk population. And lastly, now that Lake Urmia is desiccated, the Sendai Disaster Risk Reduction Framework is not being implemented by the Iranian authorities. The United Nations Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework of 23 to 27 is a key framework agreement between the United Nations Development Programme and Iran. Some of the sustainable development goals within it were tailor-made for uptake by the Iranian authorities. Unfortunately, the last annual country results report submitted by Iran, as required by the UN SDCF, was in 2023. It is highly regrettable that this sparse report was generic and made no reference to Lake Urmia. One framework for good governance that is promoted and championed by the United Nations has some 10 principles. Besides acquiring accountability by each country, these principles include having a strategic vision, encouraging participation, steering the country towards equity, inclusivity and diversity, governing accountably through consensus which ensures responsive citizens, and acting in a transparent manner over a country where the law of the land rules all. While accountability is very fluid in Iran, let us examine two of the other principles, namely strategic vision and responsiveness, in some detail. Firstly, then, strategic vision. It may appear that there is a culture in Iran of executive decisions being made in a reactionary, unplanned fashion. However, a few years back, it emerged that highly confidential decisions about the transboundary diversion of river water from Khuzestan to Isfahan were being made behind closed doors. We know that similar decisions were made for the transboundary diversion of water from Baluchistan to Yazd. Similarly, decisions were made to desiccate Lake Urmia by depriving the lake from surface water inflows. So, second, to the issue of responsiveness. Azerbaijanis in Iran are highly responsive to their situation in Iran, having an astute insight into their national interests and being very motivated to seek change. Protests calling for the restoration of Lake Urmia have been ongoing since at least 2010. These have been met by the Iranian authorities with, at best, no intention to respond to demands, but also with the frequent arrests and imprisonment of protesters. As mentioned earlier, the United Nations Development Programme supported a large team to produce the Basin Management Plan for the Lake Urmia Basin. This was transformed into hundreds of projects. In 2023, however, the Raisi government abruptly cancelled the restoration programme and passed the responsibilities to the provinces. Hence, the Iranian state failed to act responsibly to their obligations towards Azerbaijanis. Ironically, it is another government, the Japanese government, that is remarkable in caring for Lake Urmia, funding support for its restorations. Regrettably, the lack of accountability from the Iranian authorities means that funds never reach the restoration project. So, to conclude, the nation of Azerbaijan in the Azerbaijani provinces in Iran is not protected by the Iranian authorities. Indeed, it suffers significantly from the effects of poor governance. It would not be wrong to state that all the minority nations in Iran, including the Persians, would benefit from good governance, else the damage will escalate and become possibly permanent. Thank you.